When you hear about a conflict between Iran and Israel, it's easy to think, well, that's happening way over there. But what if I told you that this particular conflict is a direct threat to, well, pretty much everybody on the planet? We're going to break down how this isn't just another regional squabble, but a potential trigger for a worldwide economic crisis that could affect every single one of us.
Believe it or not, the answer is a single, incredibly narrow strip of water. What we're going to uncover in this explainer is the shocking fragility of our global supply chains and how they all converge on one tiny geographic choke point, putting the absolute essentials of modern life at risk.
So, what makes this situation a ticking time bomb? According to our source, one of the main reasons is that Israel seems to have drastically underestimated its opponent. They went in expecting a quick, decisive fight, but what they found was something completely different.
This is actually pretty fascinating when you dig into it. For over 40 years, Iran has been watching how other countries get taken down by so-called decapitation attacks, where an enemy takes out the leadership and the whole system just crumbles. Their solution? They decentralized their entire military into 31 independent provincial units. So to beat them, you wouldn't be fighting one army, you'd be fighting 31 different armies across a huge mountainous country.
And this incredible military preparedness gives Iran control over what is arguably the single most critical economic choke point on the entire planet, the Strait of Hormuz.
So picture this. At its narrowest point, the Strait of Hormuz is just 21 kilometers wide. That is an incredibly tight squeeze for these massive cargo ships to get through. And because it's easily within range of Iranian weapons, they can essentially open and close the gate whenever they want. This gives them unbelievable leverage.
Okay, so they control this tiny waterway. Why should you or I care? Because a mind-boggling amount of the stuff our world runs on has to pass through it every single day. Let's break down 3 of the most critical categories that are now seriously at risk.
First up, something you might not think about every day: fertilizer. Somewhere between 20 and 30% of the entire global supply comes out of this region and passes through that strait. It's an absolutely essential ingredient for modern agriculture.
And here's the terrifyingly simple math. If we lose 20% of the world's fertilizer, we lose roughly 20% of the world's food. And we're not talking about a localized famine. Our source warns this could trigger a global famine, something the modern world has literally never experienced.
Next up, and this one is a real curveball, is helium. Yeah, the stuff for party balloons. Roughly 30% of the entire world's supply comes from a single gas field in the region. And here's the kicker with helium. You can't really stockpile it. It's a master escape artist. It literally leaks through solid metal containers over time. So why does helium matter? Well, it turns out it's an absolutely irreplaceable element for manufacturing semiconductors, the chips that power everything: your phone, your computer, your car. If you cut off 30% of the world's helium, you effectively slam the brakes on a third of the world's semiconductor production.
And finally, the big one: energy. About a quarter of the world's liquefied natural gas, or LNG, flows right through the Strait of Hormuz. And that's on top of the huge amount of oil that also depends on that exact same passage. The link between energy consumption and economic output is incredibly tight. So a 5 or 10% drop in available energy would almost certainly trigger a matching drop in the global economy. In plain English, that means a severe global recession. So, given these insanely high stakes, our source lays out 5 potential ways this whole thing could end. And honestly, they range from pretty bad to truly apocalyptic.
Yeah, just take a look. We're talking about scenarios that could involve the total destruction of Iran using nuclear weapons, or Iran retaliating by wiping out the power and water infrastructure of its neighbors, or even the so-called Samson Doctrine, where a cornered Israel might just decide to unleash its own nuclear arsenal on the world.
The expert really doesn't mince words when it comes to the nuclear possibilities. Talking about the scenario where Iran is destroyed by nuclear weapons, he just says it flat out: if this happens, then we're all dead. That's the level of risk we're talking about.
But what's his prediction for the most likely outcome? This is where it gets really interesting. He actually thinks that Iran, having planned this for decades, has a way to disable Israel's nuclear weapons using conventional missiles. He calls this the best possible outcome, not because it's good, but because it would take the existential threat of nuclear war completely off the table.
But hold on,
because this potential war isn't the only storm on the horizon. The same expert is pointing to another massive instability brewing in the global economy, an AI investment bubble that he believes is about to burst.
I mean, just look at these numbers. They're staggering. By 2026, big tech is on track to spend $720 billion on AI infrastructure. The projected revenue from all that spending? Around $144 billion. That's a 5-to-1 ratio of money going out versus money coming in. That is the textbook definition of a classic, unsustainable investment bubble.
We've all seen this movie before. It's a hallmark of capitalism. A new technology emerges, everyone throws money at it, creating a massive boom, and then reality hits. Most of the companies go bust, causing a huge slump. The expert predicts we're looking at a severe contraction from this AI bubble bursting, and it's coming within the next 2 years.
And looking further down the road, the expert says AI presents us with two starkly different futures. One is a kind of Star Trek utopia, where robots do all the work, goods are abundant, and a universal basic income supports society. The other? Well, it's a Hunger Games dystopia, where a tiny elite controls everything and leaves the masses unemployed.
So what's the takeaway from all this instability? Well, first, that our global systems are far more fragile than we think. The experts suggest that individual self-sufficiency, things like home solar power, or even growing some of your own food, is becoming more and more critical. Because in a world of broken supply chains, money becomes useless if the products you need simply aren't available to buy.
And it all leaves us with a final, crucial question. When the complex global systems we rely on for food, energy, and technology prove to be so easily disrupted, what does real security actually look like? Is it something we can find in global markets, or is it maybe a lot closer to home?